Hello, and welcome to an exciting episode of AI Amplified, boosting IQs with AI for you. My name is Shannon Murphy. I'm with the AI Center of Excellence, and with me is my co-host, Mike Fitzerka, AI Technical Specialist. AI Amplified is an ongoing series by the COE where we bring you the latest information in AI capabilities within TD SYNNEX. We bring you into our conversations with leaders and innovators in this dynamic space. So today, we're talking to a returning guest, David Chow, who is Director of Practice Builder Program at TD SYNNEX. Hi, David, and thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Shannon. Hi, Mike. Good to see you guys. Thank you for having me.
Someone let the dogs out. So here on AI Amplified, we use AI to solve many of our own real-world problems. Behind the scenes, I produce the entire show myself, the video and everything. So I would not be able to do that without AI. I use AI to generate the images from the opening using Comfy UI. I create the music with Meta's Magnet music generator. I use Microsoft's AI speech to even create the closed captioning. So AI is baked into the show called AI Amplified, which is great. I love that we actually practice what we preach. And that's also why I wanted to bring you back, David, because when we had a lead up to to our last recording, you had mentioned something about how you in the Practice Builder were using AI as well, and I thought that would be an interesting story for our audience to show how AI isn't just something we sell, but it's something that we use to solve our own real world problems.
Yeah, it's very interesting because within Practice Builder, briefly, our responsibility is to enable partners. And one of the ways we do that is we do it in video conferencing and we do it one-on-one. And then one of the things we've been working on is trying to get more people to consume more of our content, much like a podcast, right?
And sounds familiar, yes.
Yeah, you're trying to get people, right? In this case, we make them do it. But the idea of creating content and being able to take what we do posed some really interesting questions for us. And those questions were around like, okay, we had to update a whole series of videos that took us a really long time to do because the speaker was no longer with the company. So the PowerPoint with the face, we really couldn't play that anymore, right? We couldn't use that because that person wasn't around anymore. So that was one challenge we had to face. The second challenge that we had to face was basically in updating any of the content. Let's say something changed, right? Well, do you cut and slice and mix in, or do you have to redo that content? How do you do that? And then the other big initiative that we had to try to figure out was, as TD SYNNEX is a global company, right? We want to create content that's globally acceptable, right? And as Americans, we like to think everyone speaks English, but in many cases they don't. So how do you create content that is, deployable worldwide, but in language? How do you stay current in your content and change it quickly so that you can stay very much up to date? And how do you do it without asking another person, hey, could you do that recording for us again? Because it's hard. So we had true business problems. And in those business problems, we then said, okay, what is available out there that helps us solve the problem? And so this was classic buyer journey, right? Classic buyer journey is there's enough of a problem that we're going to go out and try to solve it. And we found a technology that allowed us to very quickly use a digital avatar and use a non-TD SYNNEX personality in person, right, to actually be able to do the presentation. So one is it solves for, hey, what if that person ever leaves the company, right? That was really cool, right? It also solves for the talking head syndrome where they just keep their head absolutely still and they don't, move anything. right? At least these avatars are actually they're actually eerily lifelike, right? So it helped solve that presentation problem. And then, the really, really amazing thing is that you could go in and write the script that the avatar read.
Hmm.
And then when there was a need to change the script, you changed it and it reread it.
Oh, wow.
So it's really fascinating, right? Because now all of a sudden you could change certain things just by cut and pasting words and having it reread. And then the most amazing thing really turned out to be around how you could just deploy it in language.
Hmm.
You write it in English, but you could hit a button, pick a different avatar, and then pick the language, and it'll do it all over again
Wow.
in almost 120 different languages.
Oh,
Wow.
wow. Wow.
So what we actually did this for APJ, the president of TD in Japan, and he wanted his own avatar that he could talk to.
Hmm.
And so we created a little video for him that he could, say, "Hi, my name is, and I'm the president of Japan, TD SYNNEX Japan, and I just wanted to welcome you to this was their Inspire event.
Wow.
Hey, take it away, real life, real life." And then they stopped it, and he came on stage. So it took us almost no time to create that. But then he said, "Could we do it in Mandarin?
Hmm.
Can we do it in Thai? Could we do?" Yeah, sure. Let's just change the button, and that's all we had to do.
That's
So
amazing.
You're
it
talking
was a
us out of a
real.
job.
Well, I was going to ask David, did any of the team members, were they nervous about that or think, this is easy, this is being done easier than the way I do it, faster, quicker?
I don't think most people are okay with having an avatar not have to do a presentation, and then they don't have to do the
Right.
presentation.
Right.
So I
Right.
think that's one piece. I think the most interesting part was it took legal some time to figure out, hey, do we really want to buy this?
Hmm.
Because the legal aspects of AI is really stretching the boundaries of general counsels. So
Hmm.
some of the questions they had is, well, who owns the avatar? Not us.
Hmm.
Okay, but we own the content. Well, what does that mean?
Hmm.
Right? If we own the content, but the avatar reads it, well, what happens if because they could actually digitally create me as an avatar, which would be very, very scary. But you could never see me at a meeting again. I'd be on the river fishing. Um, so it really stretched our legal team to kind of understand and put some guidelines in. Like, for example, we can't do our own avatar.
Oh.
They did it on an exception basis for the president of Japan, but it wasn't an ongoing, like, hey, let's create a digital David,
Hmm.
right? It wasn't going to be ongoing. We weren't allowed to do it on behalf of somebody, so we couldn't
Hmm.
create a Patrick Zammit avatar, right? Because that gets very eerie at that point, and then who knows what. So it really posed some very interesting legal questions. But the fact is we had a problem. We went out and looked at tools and things that could help us solve these particular problems, and it happened to be an AI enabled platform that let us solve our business problem. Because I'm not really sure how we would have updated content, how we would have put it in language at the click of a button. I'm not really sure how we would have done that.
I agree. I hope they don't replace us with next time coming on an AI Amplified, all AI avatars. but
Right.
but
Yeah.
yeah, that's a great example of just you have a problem and AI is there to solve it. Not you don't have an AI problem like we were talking about last time. You have
Right.
a real world problem, and it's always good to see how
Yeah.
we can fix things with it.
And it's a point solution, right? We're not talking about, hey, let's make the avatar talk out of, based on the content that's currently available. It was very specific need, very specific problem with a very specific resolution. And sometimes you just need to get those kind of wins in a row, to be able to say, listen, I'm using AI. I mean, I still have a hard time on Copilot, but eventually I'll get better on Copilot.
Well, and if I remember properly, David, last time you talked about those small wins, and this is a great example of an internal small win that we had, for a problem, like Mike said, and how we solved it just happened to be with AI. So great example of a small win. So that's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you again, David, for joining us and sharing your insights. And thank you, Mike, for co-hosting with me. Finally, thank you to you, our audience, for your time and attention. If you have any questions about AI or any of the topics that we talked about today, please reach out to us. And we'll see you next time on AI Amplified, Boosting IQs with AI for You.